everyone is represented at the table as we're making these big decisions for our communities and our customers.
Welcome to Forward, presented by Story North. On this show, we document architects, the builders, and the visionaries who are shaping the future of northeastern Minnesota. I'm your host, Kevin Jacobson. My guest today is navigating the most complex transition in our region's history. Bethany Owen is the CEO of Allete. She is leading a legacy energy giant through a once-in-a-generation shift, balancing the immediate demands of reliability and affordability with the long-term mandate of sustainability. She is the first woman to lead the organization, and she is doing it at a moment when the stakes for our infrastructure have never been higher. Bethany, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Kevin. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Bethany, you didn't spend your entire career in the utility world. You came from law and public policy. How did that outside perspective prepare you for the moment you had to take the wheel of a legacy energy giant in the middle of its most significant transformation?
Well, I've had the privilege of working here at Allete for almost a quarter of a century, so quite a long legacy myself here at this wonderful company. But before coming to Allete, to your point, I did work in a couple of industries that were actually going through pretty significant transformation themselves, both the kind of global food industry right out of law school, but also the telecommunications industry during kind of the boom and the bust. I also spent some time in Washington, D.C., working in the United States Senate before going to grad school. So I've seen quite a bit of, kind of change and how to work and kind of lead through change during my career, even before coming to Allete. And, I certainly never grew up thinking that I would be in the role that I'm in or working in the industry that I'm in, but I have found real meaning and purpose myself professionally in this transition, in being able to both lead a company through the transition that we're needing to accomplish, but an amazing team as well as communities, and helping people understand that this company and this team is here and has been here for more than a century. We're here to really serve the people and provide a kind of reliable energy into the next century as well.
You mentioned reliability. We're also talking about affordability and sustainability when it comes to the energy transition. So, as a leader, how do you navigate that impossible math when you know every decision you make impacts a different stakeholder in a very different way?
Yeah, it's incredibly important that we bring stakeholders together, not only just to hear from us, but to hear from each other, quite frankly. People have different interests and perspectives. Our obligation as an energy provider is to provide safe, reliable, affordable power as we transition as required in the state of Minnesota and for other requirements. So it has really been a critical part of our path to make sure that everyone is represented at the table as we're making these big decisions for our communities and our customers. And not just to listen to what we have to say and our thoughts about it, but quite frankly, to listen to each other. And so that they can understand kind of the need to balance all of these diverse perspectives. I'm someone that firmly believes, whether it's our own company's strategy or these big transitions that we're navigating as a society and as a region, that we need all the diverse perspectives to make these big decisions together. And so that's our goal, is to really make sure that that we're listening, but they're also listening to each other.
Bethany, what have you learned about the weight of your voice now that you aren't just advising the strategy, but you are the strategy?
Well, Kevin, I am not sure. I don't think that any one person should ever be the strategy. When I started out in this role, I wanted to make sure, because I knew we were headed into a really time of a lot of transition and a lot of change. I knew the world was changing around us, and I knew that we as an organization needed to be part of that. And so I pulled together, really in my first year, a very diverse team across our family of businesses to come together to try to, what should our strategy for this next era be? And I wanted to make sure both, again, so that we had the diverse perspectives at the table but also ownership throughout our organization that this is the right path for us. I will tell you, I say all the time, and I believe that political winds are going to blow back and forth, but our decisions that we need to make as a company and as a team are decades and even multiple decades and even quite frankly centuries long. And so we have to make sure that we're charting what we believe is the right path for our customers, for our communities, for our region, in spite of what might happen, politically and otherwise. And so that takes all of us working together. So I really wanted to make sure that we had that ownership as we set forth our strategy. And our strategy is called Sustainability in Action. And it really is sustainability in all the senses of the word. It's meaning that it both in terms of the green kind of environmental, transition, clean energy aspect of sustainability, but also how do we make sure that our communities are sustainable going forward, our customers are sustainable, and that quite frankly, our company is here for the next century serving customers and communities.
Sure. What would you say inspires or influences the way that you have architected the culture at Elite, both in the boardroom, but maybe also across the entire company?
Well, I stand on the shoulders of many wonderful leaders that came before me at this company. Our culture has always been, is known for, it's a hallmark of Elite that we have a strong culture, strong values. I will say one of the things that I knew coming into our organization is that we're a relatively small company. So in the energy space, we're the eighth smallest investor-owned utility in the country, but we have big things to do. We desire to make a meaningful difference in for the customers and in the regions we serve, and so I know that we can't go it alone. And I wanted to make sure that we, again, back to developing relationships in clear blue sky days to try to find common ground, to try to figure out what is our common purpose in the communities that we serve. How can we work together? There are a lot of people that have kind of challenges with some of the work that we're doing, but I've wanted to hear from them too, because I believe that there is an opportunity to find common ground and purpose, because I know that we all love this planet that we live on, we love this region, and really, what can we do to work together?
And to that point, Bethany, Elite and Minnesota Power works with large industrial customers. They also work with residential taxpayers, ratepayers rather, in small northern communities. So, what have you learned about the art of listening to those different kinds of stakeholders, those different perspectives about making before making a strategic investment?
Well, I think it just starts with caring, right? Naturally, I'm naturally very curious about how people think and what their interests and concerns are. And, I think we have to care. And, our customers, whether they're, the residential customer all the way to the largest industrial customers, to your point, they all have a perspective and they all have value to us. And it's just a matter of, really taking the time to ensure that we're understanding what their concerns are and trying to address them as best we can or share other perspectives too.
Looking 10 years out, what does a successful Elite look like for the families and the industries in this region?
Well, I really believe we're making really important investments. You mentioned infrastructure investments that will really serve this region and all of our customers well beyond 10 years into the future. And, as things change, as industry changes, as society's needs and expectations for their energy company change, I want to make sure that this company is here. This company is here providing the same safe, reliable, affordable services that we have in the past for the next century, and that to me is will be the greatest success. But making sure that the investments that we are making benefit the communities that we serve, provide jobs here locally, and lift others up as we move forward.
Excellent. Bethany, for the next generation of leaders stepping into the infrastructure space where the problems are more complex than ever, what is the one mindset they need to carry to ensure they don't just manage the system, but actually move it forward?
Great question. I think just continuing to learn, stay curious and learn. And so much of that is, from each other. I think that, again, we cannot solve the large challenges in our society and, quite frankly, in the energy industry, thinking that one person or one team has all the answers. So continuing to seek out the diverse perspectives, continuing to innovate. I think innovation is critically important. Making sure that you're doing it in a kind of safe space so that reliability and all of the things are not impacted negatively, but continuing to push the needle because it is going to take all the innovation that we can do to continue to transition in all the right ways.
And Bethany, before we go, to take this region's energy future from where we are today to where we need to be, what is the one bold move we need to make to truly move forward?
I think one of the main things, Kevin, that our region has been lacking more recently is the ability to kind of lift all boats. And when I think of the work that our team has done on economic development in our region, the investments that need to be made, welcoming new businesses, welcoming new industry to our region is really important. It has to be done in the right way, and there's no question about that. But to help tax base, to help, kind of defray fixed costs as at Allete and Minnesota Power transition, all of that is really important. So I think making sure that we are not the no region, that we're the yes region to industry and additional businesses and homeowners that come to our region in the right ways.
Bethany, thank you so much for sharing your perspective.
Thank you, Kevin. It was a pleasure talking to you.
At Story North, we believe the most important work in our region is often the hardest to explain. If you're leading an organization through that kind of complexity, where the mission is critical, but the message is getting lost in the noise, that is where we come in. We don't just capture the work, we help you architect the narrative that scales it. You can find the full show notes and the video version of this conversation at storynorthproductions.com. Until next time.